वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जयो जगन्नाथ बलदेवा मैया सुभद्रा जयो जगन्नाथ बलदेवा मैया सुभद्रा जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय हे प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल। हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामो राम रामो हरे हरे। Just 1 minute. Hare Krishna. So welcome all of you all for a weekly Gita class. So last time, last to last week, when we were discussing the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we had come till verse number 9. We discussed this shloka, but just to give a quick recap of what we have been discussing. So this is the fourth chapter, 9th shloka. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvata tyaktva deham punarjanma neti mameti. So Arjuna. So Krishna is saying here, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So we saw, while discussing this verse, we saw some important points in this verse. First is how Krishna's activities and birth is transcendental. Krishna is not born in an ordinary way, right? So it's not that, Krishna also lived like an ordinary human being. Most people have this misconception. Recently, after the Vrindavan Yatra, I went for a day to one village in Haryana. We had like a small satsang there. So there also the villagers, they have a complete wrong understanding of who Krishna is. They think that Krishna is an ordinary person, born in an ordinary way, died in an ordinary way. Right? But the point we need to understand from the Gita is Krishna is not ordinary. Krishna's birth and activities are transcendental. Therefore, the word tattvata. Tattvata means understanding as it is. Having the right kind of knowledge is very, very important. So we discussed this aphorism of Srila Prabhupada. Books are the basis. So in order to understand Krishna as it is, we need to read books. So last time we discussed in detail. I'm not getting into the details of it, but I'm just giving a recap of what we did. So we discussed this topic about reading. Why reading Srila Prabhupada's books, the Gita Bhagavatam, is important, and even hearing lectures, why it is important. So why to read, what are the difficulties in reading, and how to read. So we discussed various reasons why we need to read books, especially Gita Bhagavatam, why we need to read them. So we discussed various points. The first point is it gives us higher taste. If we want higher taste in spiritual life, we need to read books. Srila Prabhupada would say, by distributing books, you will stay in Krishna consciousness, but when you read the books, we will stay happy in Krishna consciousness. So if you want to stay happy, if you want to experience the higher taste, it is by reading. The second reason is for reading is if you want to be happy, right? First is to experience a higher taste, and once we experience the higher taste, we'll remain happy in Krishna consciousness. The third reason for personal conviction. If you want to be convinced about this philosophy, if you want to be rooted very strongly in this Krishna conscious movement in spiritual life, then we need to read books on a regular basis. The next point is reading books will answer all our questions. We discussed this episode where disciples of Srila Prabhupada would come and ask Srila Prabhupada so many questions. Prabhupada said, don't come and ask me all these questions. All these questions I've answered in my books. Please read my books. So if you read the books of Srila Prabhupada, all our questions will be answered. And we will be able to answer the questions of others also if you read Srila Prabhupada books well. The next important reason why we need to read, it helps us in adverse situations. Padam padam yad vipadam na tesham. This material world is a place where there is danger at every step. When a problem can strike us, when an adversity can strike us, there is no guarantee. Nishvase nahi vishvasa. There is no guarantee when death will come, when calamities will come. Therefore, in order to deal with adverse situations, we need to read books. Right? The Bhagavad Gita setting is the same thing. Arjuna had a very adverse situation. He had to fight with his own relatives. But then after reading the Gita, the situation didn't change, but Arjuna's thought process, there was an entire paradigm shift in the way Arjuna saw his situation. His whole consciousness changed. So when we read books, we get the capacity to deal with adverse situations. The next reason is spiritual strength. If you want to become strong spiritually, we need to read books. Just like, physically you have to be strong, you eat good food, protein food, you go to the gym. So similarly, if you want spiritual strength, you have to sit with the books. This gives us spiritual strength. It strengthens the intelligence, right? Then we saw how it can rectify the agitation of mind by elevation. Just like a building may appear very big, 100-story building, but once you take a flight and go on top, the building appears very small. Similarly, the problems in this world may appear very huge for us. It may be very overwhelming for us. But when we read books, we will see that those same very problems which were appearing very big, because we raise our consciousness, they will appear very small. That is the only way to deal with the problems of this world, right? You have to raise yourself, you have to raise your consciousness. And that happens by reading Srila Prabhupada's books. The next reason why we need to read is by reading the books of Srila Prabhupada, Gita, Bhagavatam, we get the association of the Supreme Lord and his pure devotees. We discussed this point also elaborately. When we read Narada's instructions to Vyasadev, we are actually experiencing the association of Narad Muni, of Vyasadev. When we read the life of Haridas Thakur, Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami, all these personalities, we are actually associating with them. When we read the books of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we are associating with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. When we read the books of Srila Prabhupada, we are actually personally associating with Srila Prabhupada. So we will experience direct association of the Lord and his pure devotees when we read the books. We will find the connection. We will experience the connection with these personalities, right? And then another very important reason why we need to read is to purify our hearts. All our hearts are so impure. How do we make our hearts purified? By hearing Krishna Katha, by reading Krishna Katha. Shranvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantasto Yabhadrani Vidunoti Satam. By regular, Prabhupada explains, by regular attendance in the classes of Srimad Bhagavatam. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. By regular attendance, that means by regularly reading Prabhupada's books, Gita, Bhagavatam, we will purify our hearts. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So all our anarthas, all the abhadra, unwanted things will go away. Heart will become pure if we read. One time, there is this interesting story I had read long back. When we would do, for 2 consecutive years, we had done Gita competition for the school children in Goa. So what I would do is I would have to go to different classes, class to class, or in the assembly. I would have to inspire the children to participate in the Gita competition. So every class I would tell them a little slightly different story. So there is this very interesting story. There was a grandfather who was living with his grandchild. So this grandfather would read Gita every day, but because he was old, he wouldn't remember Gita. So the grandchild asked him, "Arey grandfather, you're reading Gita, but you're not remembering Gita. What is the point in reading?" So many people have this question, "Arey, I'm reading Gita, Prabhuji, I read Gita, but I don't remember anything. I hear lectures, I don't remember anything." But we need to understand that we are reading Gita, we are reading Bhagavatam, not just to remember, but to purify our hearts. So this grandchild asked the grandfather, "You are reciting Gita every day, but you don't remember anything. What is the point?" So the grandfather had a coal basket. This was like a cold country. He had a basket, bamboo basket, in which coal was put, charcoal. And the coal basket was very black. So he told the child, "Go and get water from the river in this basket." So the child was thinking, how in a bamboo basket which has holes, how do you get water? But the grandfather said, "Just do it." So this child would run to the river, try to pick up water and come running. But naturally, everything would fall off because there were holes in this basket. So he kept doing this. And then the grandchild came and told the grandfather, it's useless. What is the point? You can't get water in a basket. It's useless. The grandfather told him, "It's not useless. Look at the basket." The basket was black in color. It was a coal basket. But because you dipped it in the water again and again, the basket has become cleaned. It has become pure. So similarly, when we read Gita, when we read scriptures, what happens is our heart becomes pure. We may remember, we may not remember, but our hearts will definitely get pure. Right? That is another reason why we need to read. The next is to chant better. This is a very, very important reason. We discussed this point also. Even though 99% of our advancement depends on chanting, but in order to chant better, we need to read also. Both go hand in hand. So if you read nicely, at least some amount of Krishna consciousness, you read Gita, Bhagavad, the pastimes of Krishna. When you chant better, you'll be more inspired in your chanting. You will be able to pour your heart out in chanting. Therefore, Sachinandan Maharaj in his book Living Name, he stresses this fact that until we are established in Sambandha Gyan, until we know more about Krishna, we will not be able to chant his names feelingly. So in order to chant properly, we need to hear about Krishna, we need to read about Krishna. Then the next is in order to help others. Everyone in this world is going through suffering of their own. If you want to help others, what will you help them? How will you help them if you don't know how to help? If you don't know what are there in the scriptures, what help you will do? What will you tell them? So in order to help others, we need to read. So our sadhana also is actually connected to our prachar, to our preaching. When we do good sadhana, we can do good prachar, right? So it helps to preach also. And then the ultimate purpose to read is to please Krishna. Samsiddhi Haritoshanam. That is the only ultimate purpose. When Krishna sees that we are sincerely reading Gita Bhagavatam, he becomes very happy. And when Krishna is pleased, our life is successful, our spiritual life is successful, right? So these are like the various reasons why we need to read. So we also discussed, I don't know whether we came to this point, but we had like a slight discussion, but we can just recap it. So many devotees, they know importance of reading, but they find practical difficulties in reading. So what are the various difficulties in reading? Some may have this complaint that it is repetitive. The same thing is repeated again and again. But actually, it is repetitive for a reason. If you see Srila Prabhupada's books, the same point Prabhupada repeats again and again. I am doing like my morning Bhagavatam class. I'm continuously seeing that the same points of Srila Prabhupada comes again and again in different chapters, in different verses. But it is repetitive for a reason. Because these are points that we need to remind ourselves every time. That this material world is a place of suffering. Padam padam yat vipadam na tesham. There is danger at every step. Death can come at any moment. We are the spirit soul. We are not the body. We should stop sense gratification. These are certain points that will come every now and then because these are important points. So it is repetitive so that we can, in our consciousness, in our belief system, these points can get registered very strongly. So another difficulty devotees may have in reading is they may find reading to be very boring. अरे कंटा लग गया, same thing. अरे कुछ मजा नहीं आ रहा है. But actually ये मजा कब आएगा? It will come when we put our heart into it. ऐसे ही करने के लिए करेंगे, मजा नहीं आएगा, boring लगेगा. But when we try to put our heart consciously, mindfully when we read, we will not find it boring. We'll find a lot of nectar in the book. So there is nectar in every activity in Krishna consciousness, whether it is chanting, reading, hearing, serving. We may find it boring, but the activity is not boring because we are not doing it properly. That's why we are finding it boring. So if you sit peacefully and read 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, very nicely, you will find so much nectar in it. You will get so addicted to it, you will not want to give it up, right? So reading is actually very exciting, provided we do it with our heart in it. Another difficulty is devotees feel that you feel sleepy. But again, this sleepiness is because we are not finding any taste in it. Once I'll share with you all some points in which how we can read better, some practical suggestions. So we find it we feel sleepy while reading because we don't find interest in it, right? So we need to, as I told you, put our heart into this reading, even for some time. Rather than reading a lot, better to read quality. So if you read quality, naturally quantity will come. You will feel inspired to read more. Another very common reason people give no time. But I think last time I told you the story of Radhanath Maharaj. Radhanath Maharaj, when he was a brahmachari in New Vrindavan, he also didn't have any time. But those little times, see, you may not get half an hour, 1 hour to read, if you're having like a busy life, but you may get 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So it is important. This is like my practical suggestion to all of y'all, even those who are working, please carry Bhagavad Gita or one small book of Srila Prabhupada wherever you are, whether you're going to office, wherever you're traveling, just carry Bhagavad Gita, a book of Srila Prabhupada and your bead bag. So whenever you get time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, instead of wasting that time, either you chant or you read. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, if you read, it will build up, right? That we have that example, na? One drop of water that keeps falling in the bucket fills the bucket. Similarly, little at a time, if you keep reading, you will be amazed how you have read all of Srila Prabhupada's books. Another difficulty, mind gets distracted, right? The mind gets distracted only because we are not able to focus. And another difficulty devotees, especially in ISKCON, even brahmacharis have is so many services we have, right? So many services, no time. And ultimately not convinced to read. We don't have the conviction to read. So what is most important is we need to develop the conviction, why to read. That's why initially I told you all the reasons why we need to read. So when we are convinced why we need to read, we will find the ways to read it. The means to read it will come on its own. So now I'll share with you all some tips how to read. If you all follow one of this, two of this, few of these tips, you will be inspired to read and your reading will be enjoyable. It will not be boring to you. So what are the tips? First is eagerness. Be eager to read. Understand that this is a very great opportunity, right? Srila Prabhupada spent sleepless nights writing his books, right? So therefore, we need to develop eagerness to read. When there is eagerness in something, in that activity, naturally we'll find, we will start to enjoy that particular activity. So we need to find eagerness. We should at least be excited to read these books. And then another very important principle is we need to read the books in a very prayerful mode. What is Krishna trying to tell me today? What is Srila Prabhupada trying to instruct me today? Right? So we should read in a very prayerful mode. So this is also a bhakti. Right? Just like chanting we do in a prayerful mode, we offer aarti in a prayerful mode. So similarly, our reading also should be in a very prayerful mode. Right? My dear Lord, I'm trying to read so that I can get purified. I can understand what is Krishna's message for me. Then consistency. This is a very important principle. So try to read every day something. Try to be consistent. If not every day, at least in a week, 3-4 times, consistency should be there. Right? It's not that you read once in a year. It's not like that. Right? We need to be consistent. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya on a regular basis. Right? So the key is always keep books around you, very accessible to you. So you should always, wherever your bag is, whenever you're traveling, some book or the other should be there so that whenever you have time, you sit and read. So consistency is important. Then proper ambience. This is also very important. You can have a room or one part of the room in which you have a nice table, light, proper lamp. Not very comfortable also, but properly comfortable, so that you want to go to that place and read. So it's not that you will sit in the bed and read. You may fall sleepy, right? So it's important that you sit, you create a proper ambience to read. Recently, there's something interesting. You all can try it. I went to one of our devotees, one of our well-wisher. He made a new bungalow. So he invited us just to see the place and have kirtan. So he did something very interesting. I really liked this idea. What he did was, in his bungalow, he has a lot of verandas, lot of verandas, small verandas. And these verandas are like in this, his entire bungalow is in a very scenic place, very beautiful place, a lot of greenery. So what he has done is, in all these verandas, he's put a table that folds. You can just fold it and then flip it back. And then in all the verandas, he's kept small bookshelves in which he has kept books. Right now, he doesn't have any spiritual books, but I'm giving you how he is creating this ambience. He has 2 small children. He wants the children to spend time in books rather than wasting time in TV and other things. So he's put these tables in all the verandas. In every veranda, 2-3 small these planks he's put, and he's kept these book racks, so that anytime you can just sit along with nature and read. So we need to create this ambience. So in ISKCON, we need to have these circles. We can have study circles. We need to create a proper ambience to read. This is why Srila Prabhupada has made ISKCON. Prabhupada has written so many books. Why? So that we can all study them together. We can all read them. So if we create a proper ambience wherever we are, we will want to go and read. So we can create that small space, in one corner of the room, make a nice table, put light, comfortable chair, so that we can sit and read. Okay. Then the next is devotee friends who are eager to read. As I told you, If you want to read and if you feel I don't like reading, then you connect to devotees who love to read. So when you form that circle, they will inspire you to read. So you can take support basically, right? And then go deep. So when you try to read, try to go deeper into the books. Each line, try to understand what is Srila Prabhupada trying to say here, what is the message for me, and try to connect. How does this connect to my own life? Is there any other words from the Gita Bhagavatam that refers to this particular point? So try to go deeper in the books. The more deeper you go, the more nectar you'll find. Just like, someone who wants to find pearls in an ocean, he has to go deep. You don't find pearls on the shore, on the top of the ocean. You have to go deep. So similarly, if you want to find pearls of wisdom in the books of Srila Prabhupada, it is very important that we go deep. And then we need to relish it. I was giving this example, I think in one of our Purvarim class. All of us have eaten rabdi, na? Rabdi, condensed milk. How do you eat rabdi? Rabdi is you get in that small container, and sometimes when it is kept in the fridge and you are given especially in a summer time, when you are given cold rabdi, how do you eat it? You don't immediately finish it. One spoon at a time, you relish it, right? So similarly, reading books or chanting, we should relish this activity. Little at a time, experience it fully. When you relish it, you will want to do more of it. Okay? So this is how you read. I think I give you this example. One time, Bhurijan Prabhu, he's asking Radha Govind Maharaj, Param Puja Radha Govind Maharaj, how do you prepare for Srimad Bhagavatam classes? So we all know Radha Govind Maharaj is very famous for giving beautiful Bhagavatam classes. So Bhurijan Prabhu asked Radha Govind Maharaj, how do you prepare for Bhagavatam classes? Radha Govind Maharaj says, I don't prepare. I just relish Bhagavatam. That's all. And what I relish, I speak. So similarly, if we relish the books, naturally we will preach. We don't have to prepare separately for any class. If you relish the study of Srila Prabhupada's books, you will naturally want to share it with others. And then explain it to others. Whatever you have read, explain. Even if you have read 1 page, 2 page, 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph, tell someone else. Call some devotee and tell. Instead of talking what is happening in politics today, this, that, family, my husband is like this, my mother-in-law is like this. Instead of talking all those things, talk about Srila Prabhupada's books. This is what I read today. What did you read today? Right? This is how we develop Vaishnav culture. Vaishnav society is where you come together and discuss about Krishna. Explain it to others. And when you explain it, you will want to read. Whatever you have read will get registered more strongly. So when we preach whatever we have read, whatever we are reading, when we explain it to others, our understanding becomes very crystal clear. So these are few points on how to read. So therefore, Vaishashika Prabhu, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciple, he came up with this phrase called "Be a sage, page by page." That means if sage means a saint, a sadhu. So if you want to become a sadhu, how do you become a sadhu? Every day when we read page by page, one page after another of Srila Prabhupada's books, we gradually become a sadhu. Okay? So this is what we discussed last time. Okay, so this is a very beautiful shloka from Sanatan Goswami. So Sanatan Goswami, in one of his books, he explains this very beautiful shloka on Srimad Bhagavatam. Madeka bandhu mad sangin, mad guru man mahadana, mad nistaraka mad bhagya, mad ananda namostute. So this is just one paragraph. Out of the many paragraphs, he is written glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. So he says, Madeka bandhu, my only friend is Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada's books, Gita Bhagavatam is my only friend. So we can carry this friend wherever we want. Imagine, we all want to have our best friend with us. Who is our best friend? These books are our best friend. We can always carry them with us. Madeka bandhu. And these friends, just like a friend will give you shelter, will he will be with you in difficult times. He will give you hope. He will give you courage. These books will do all that for us. Madeka bandhu mad sangin. So this should be our constant associate. Just like when we travel, we have a travel partner. So similarly, these books should be a travel partner. Wherever we go, and life itself is like a travel, right? Life itself is like a yatra. So when we go out for any travel, when we are traveling in this life, in this human form of life, These books are very important. Mad Sangam, it should be our constant companion. Mad Guru, these books are our spiritual master. So when we read Srila Prabhupada books, we are actually hearing from Srila Prabhupada. So this is our Guru. We need to connect to these books. Man Mahadana, this is our greatest wealth. What is the greatest wealth? The books of Srila Prabhupada is our greatest wealth. Gita Bhagavatam is our greatest wealth. Even if the other wealth of this world goes away, no problem. We should have faith that this is my greatest wealth. Gita Bhagavatam. Right? So the point is, we just like Sanatan Goswami has this conviction, we should try to develop this conviction. Gita Bhagavatam, the books of Srila Prabhupada are my greatest wealth. Right? And we should keep this wealth very dear to us. We should keep them in our house. We should carry them everywhere we can. Mad Nistaraka. By reading the books, Gita, Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada books, we will get delivered. Liberation will come by reading books. Mad Bhagya. Our fortune will open. Good fortune will come in our life. Good blessings will come. Good luck will come in our life and we read. Mad Ananda Namostute. If you want to be happy, all happiness is there in the books of Srila Prabhupada. If you read Gita Bhagavatam nicely, we will be so satisfied. In Vrindavan, all our Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, they gave up everything. They gave up all their wealth, very successful people. They gave up everything and they would sit in Vrindavan and relish Srimad Bhagavatam. And they would be so happy. Without any wealth, even without a house to stay, they were so happy. So we will find great happiness in Krishna consciousness when we read books on a regular basis. Okay. So what is the result of knowing? Krishna explains in the next verse. Text 10. So we can repeat this verse. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashrita bhavoho jnana tapasa putamad bhavam agata. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashrita bhavoho jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagata. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashrita bhavoho jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagata. Anyone would like to read? Repeat the verse. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashitaha bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Radha Premable ji.
Krishna. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mama upashritaha bhavo jnana tapasa puta madbhava agataha.
Yes, Paramdalu Prabhu.
Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upasritaha bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavam gataha.
Yeah. So the word to word is like this. Vita, freed from, raga, attachment, bhaya, fear, krodha, and anger, matmaya, fully in me, mam, in me, upashritaha, being fully situated, bhavaha, many, jnana of knowledge, tapasa, by the penance, puta, being purified, madbhavam, transcendental love for me, agata, attained. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So if you see in this one verse, the word me is come so many times. Man maya. So man maya means me, of me. Mam means me. Mad bhavam means of me. So Krishna again and again is telling this point that bhakti means referring to that Supreme Lord. He is not impersonal. Prabhupada in the purport explains the understanding of God being impersonal is not correct. Understanding God as He is. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvata. when we understand Krishna as it is, and when we take shelter of Krishna, Mam Upashrita. Upashrita means, Ashrita means taking shelter. When we take full shelter of Krishna, and when we are fully absorbed in Krishna, manmaya means being fully absorbed. So there are two words here which are very important. One is when we are fully surrendered to Krishna, when we experience that Krishna is my only shelter. We need to develop this conviction that only Krishna can help us in this world. He is my only shelter, and therefore I need to be absorbed in him, fully absorbed in Krishna. So when we have that kind of shelter, the mood of Sharnagati, and when we are absorbed, and then when we are freed from Rag, Bhaya, Krodh. Attachment, Rag is attachment, Bhaya is fear, and Krodh is anger. So Krishna is saying, those who are freed from attachment, fear, and anger, and who are fully absorbed in me, they take shelter of me. All these persons, what they attain? They attain love for me. Puta madbhavam agata. They become purified and they attain love for me. And Krishna is saying, it's not that the process of Krishna consciousness is not that something we are doing new. Many persons in the past have become purified of knowledge of me. Bhavoho jnana tapasa. So when we understand Krishna properly, what will happen? We will get purified. And it's not that we are going to be a new case. Many great souls have attained purification. Therefore, when we go to holy places like Vrindavan, Jagannath Puri, when we read the life of great souls, we will get inspiration. Hare, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Haridas Thakur, Bilva Mangal Thakur, when we see all these personalities, we will understand all these personalities attain perfection. Bhavo Jnana Tapasa Putamad Bhava Magata. They all attain great love for Krishna. Why? Because they took shelter of Krishna and they were fully absorbed in Krishna. So this is the result of knowing Krishna. What is the result? We will attain love for Krishna. Mad bhavam agata. Bhavam here refers to love. We will attain love for Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport in this shloka few points. So here Krishna is saying one should be free from attachment, fear, and anger. So Prabhupada gives a different understanding of attachment. So Prabhupada says there are three categories of people, right? We have the karmis, the jnanis, and the yogis, right? So the karmis, they are attached to sense gratification. And because they are attached to sense gratification, they don't want to take to spiritual life because they have attachment to sense gratification, right? And therefore they are negligent to spiritual life. And the jnanis, they are fearful of material life. Bhaya, they have fear of material life. Arey, what will happen if I get a body again? So therefore they just want to merge into God. They want mukti. They want they want to just become one with Brahma Jyoti. And there are other people who are so frustrated with spiritual life and with material life, they become very angry. So Prabhupada says there, we should be careful of these three things. One should get rid of all these three things. The first is negligence of spiritual life. So there are three types of attachment. One is negligence of spiritual life. Second is fear of spiritual personal identity. So many people who take to spiritual life, they don't want to have another form in the spiritual world. They feel that no, Baba, I have this material form, it's so dangerous. I just want to lose my form. I want to give up my free will. I just want to finish my existence completely. So this is also dangerous. You may get mukti, this kind of fear of material life may lead to mukti, but it will not give you bhakti. It will not give you love for Krishna. And the third kind of people are people who are frustrated in material life. They don't have a proper understanding. They become so angry because their needs are not fulfilled. So we find in today's society, people are either in these three platforms, right? Either raga, bhaya, krodha. Someone is attached to the material world, you tell people, you will find such people around everywhere. You tell people take up to spiritual life, come to Krishna consciousness, they don't come. You know why? One of the reason is they feel if I take to Krishna consciousness, my material life will get over. They're still attached to material life. So therefore they don't want to come. And there are some people who are fearful of spiritual life, right? What will happen, if I take up spiritual life, what will happen to me? They have such kinds of fear of taking shelter of Krishna, apprehensions. And then Krodha. So many people have anger that is within them. They don't know why they are angry, but that anger is there. That anger is because our needs are not fulfilled. We may have a family, we may have friends, we may have everyone, but still that anger is there. Yeah, that anger is there because they are not experiencing their real need. And the real need is Krishna. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada says, one should be careful of all these three. One should be careful of negligence of spiritual life, fear of losing one's spiritual identity, personal identity, and frustration that comes from voidism. Being freed from all this, what one should do? One should take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. One should take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And when you take shelter, what will happen? Your attachments will get channelized. You will channelize your attachments. So the spiritual master is expert. The spiritual master, when you take guidance from a proper spiritual master, he knows how to channelize our attachment. So we are all attached to the material world. But when we come to spiritual life, what happens? We become gradually attached to Krishna. It's a gradual process. And the spiritual master, the process of bhakti will take us through all this stage. So Srila Prabhupada quotes these verses. According to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the science of devotional service is described as follows. Adau Shraddha tata sadhu sanga tata bhajana kriya tato anartha nivritti syat tato nishta ruchi tata asakti tato bhavas tata premna prema vyudhanchanti sadhakanam ayam premna pradurbhave bhavet kramaha. So bhavet kramaha, that means step by step. If you follow the process of bhakti as taught by great souls, bhavoho jnana tapasa, by the great souls who have attained perfection, when we follow bhakti in their footsteps, what will happen? Step by step, one will experience progress. And how is this progress? First, it starts with adau shraddha, little faith, preliminary faith, a little faith. So with this little faith, we come to the association of devotees, sadhu sangha. And when we come in association of devotees, what the sadhus will do? The sadhus will initiate us. So Prabhupada says here, initiated by an elevated spiritual master. So the sadhu will initiate us in what? Bhajana kriya, in the process of devotional service. And what is the process of devotional service? These 9 limbs. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Padasevanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So when you engage in the process of devotional service, gradually what will happen? Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. When we keep doing it every day, day in, day out, what will happen? Anartha Nivritti. All unwanted impurities will go away. And when these impurities go away, what will happen? One will attain Nishta. One will attain steady faith. So initially there is Komal Shraddha, very weak faith. But when we engage in bhakti, the process of bhajana kriya, after anartha nivritti, will come to a stage of steady faith. Faith will become very strong, steadiness. And when that steadiness comes, what will happen? Ruchi, taste will come. We will experience taste in the process of bhakti. We will not want chanting to end. We'll want to continuously keep chanting. We will experience ruchi. Just like in our recent Vrindavan Yatra, we went to this place in Nandagram called Pavan Sarovar. In Pavan Sarovar, there is this bhajan kutir of, I think the Samadhi Mandir of Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. So Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj is the god brother of Srila Prabhupada. But he has so much love for chanting. Day and night he would keep chanting. Day and night. Devotees wouldn't know when he would sleep, when he would get up, when he would eat. Devotees would always see him chanting only because he developed so much taste, ruchi. And after ruchi comes asakti. You will become attached to Krishna. You will become addicted to Krishna. Right? This is asakti. And after asakti, bhava. Bhava means preliminary stage of love. All spiritual emotions will come. And then finally we will experience prema, love for Krishna. So Prabhupada says here, therefore, by the slow process of devotional service, I am reading from Srila Prabhupada's purport. So Prabhupada is saying, by the slow process of devotional service. So is devotional service fast or slow? What do you all think? Is devotional service fast or slow? What is your understanding? So in some places it is said very soon one will attain Krishna consciousness, immediately. And here Prabhupada is saying by the slow process of devotional service. So is devotional service slow or fast? So it basically it depends on how well you practice, right? Slow, okay. So it first depends on how intensely you practice. If you practice very intensely, it can be fast also. But also what it means is, compared to the other processes, the process of bhakti is very fast. But still it takes time, right? It takes time. So you need to have patience. So therefore, Rupa Goswami's formula is Utsaha, Nishtaya, Dhairyat. One need to be patient. So by the slow process of devotional service, that means gradually. It's not that immediately you join, tomorrow you're a pure devotee. You need to wait for some time. You need to be patient. But the slow process of devotional service under the guidance of a spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being free from personal attachment, fearfulness, and anger, and one can attain love for Krishna. One can attain the spiritual love. So when we understand Krishna properly, and when we practice the process of Bhakti Yoga sincerely, nicely, how do we do it? By reading Srila Prabhupada's books, by chanting, by practicing this Navvidha Bhakti with great enthusiasm, with great determination, with great patience, then gradually all these stages will come. We will experience Ruchi, we will experience Asakti, we will experience Nishtha, and finally we will experience Prema. So I will stop at this point. The next set of verses are very important verses. I thought I would reach that verse today, verse 11, but I think we will stop here. The next week we will continue from text 11 onwards, which is a very important verse. Anyone has any questions till what we discussed today? Any questions? Yeah. Yes, Paramdalu bro.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
In this 8 process of this 9 process of 8 9. This Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivrutti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Bhava, Prema. How do you know we are in which stage, Prabhuji?
You will come to know. If you are sincere, you will come to know which stage you are in. So basically, it's simple. See, Ruchi, the stage of Ruchi, you will attain only after Anartha Nivritti is over. So if all your anarthas are gone, if your lust, anger, pride, envy, greed, illusion is gone, then you will experience real Ruchi. So now also we may experience little taste in bhakti, but that is not technically called Ruchi. So all of us, if we have lust, anger, pride, greed, envy, illusion in us, that means we need to understand we are in which stage? We are in Anartha Nivritti. Right? Anartha Nivritti and Bhajana Kriya. So Anartha Nivritti, Bhajana Kriya go simultaneously. So as we keep doing Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti keeps happening. So that's the stage we are in. But Anartha Nivritti stage is a long stage. Someone may be in the initial part, someone may be in between, someone may be towards the the final parts of Anartha Nivritti. So if you are feeling that your impurities are going down, your lust, anger, greed is coming down, and you're finding little more taste in bhakti, then you can understand that you are in Anartha Nivritti stage only, but you're gradually going towards Ruchi. Gradually that stage is happening. You can consider yourself like that. But then we should, another very important point is, we should judge ourselves only. We should not judge other devotees. Right? We should not say that, Arey, this devotee is also Anartha Nivritti. We don't know which stage the other devotees may be. So we should consider ourselves to be in Anartha Nivritti stage, and the others, we can consider them to be advanced. That's a good way of thinking.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay.
But this process and all, we compulsory go to the final stage is Prema. Without after Anartha Nivritti, once you surrender to God, Sharanagati stage, means we will get automatically the Krishna Prema also, na Prabhuji.
See, Sharanagati, what is Sharanagati? Sharanagati means in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes here, what is Sharanagati? The 6 stages or the 6 symptoms of Sharanagati. What is Sharanagati? Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam. So these are all Sharanagati only. So what we are practicing in the process of devotional service is all Sharanagati. Rejecting things that are unfavorable, accepting things that are favorable. This is all Sharanagati. Right? So, but when the ultimate Sharanagati comes, yeah, that means you will attain Krishna Prem. Yeah. So the Sharanagati also happens gradually only, na. So the entire process of devotional service is Sharanagati. We are surrendering to Krishna. So, but when we gradually keep doing it, the devotional service increases more and more, and our Sharanagati increases more and more. That means we are going higher on the stages of bhakti. And finally, when the Sharanagati is maximum, then Krishna will give us love for Krishna, Krishna Prem. Okay.
Prabhu, if the suppose if another nivritti stage, devotee is in another nivritti stage, once step by step, Nishta, Ruchi, Bhava, after that only will get a Krishna Prema. But suppose if your devotee is another stage only at the end only, at the end of the lifetime only, another stage, what is the position of devotee?
Then he will get another chance, no? Next life.
Means he will, in this lifetime, he will not get, not entering into the Krishna's abode.
No. So you have to go through the stages in order to enter into Golok Vrindavan.
Compulsory, and after Krishna Prema only you are entering. Without Krishna Prema, you can't enter the Golok Vrindavan.
Yeah, at least probably a technical part we have to find out, but at least till the stage of Bhava, one has to come. At least till the stage of Bhava. At least one step before.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Radhavati Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Each process of devotional service is good, slow or fast. Sometimes we get carried away and we do bhakti with very enthusiastically, but we don't reach to that stage. But going step by step is better.
Can you repeat the question again?
Which process of devotional service is better, slow or fast?
Which process, matlab?
Process means steps from Nishtha, Bhava, that Ruchi, all those things. No?
So those are stages. See, it's not steps. See, it is, you can't say that, array, definitely the higher stages are better, but you and I can't jump to those stages.
Yeah, that is what I'm.
When we gradually go, you have to cross through all the stages. It is not that you can just jump stages and go. There can be exceptional cases where Krishna gives sudden mercy, kripa, and then one immediately gets Krishna Prem. But general cases, you have to go step by step. So in that sense, bhakti is like a gradual process. It takes time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Sarmishta Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद प्रणाम।
Yes, धन्यवाद।
प्रभु जी, मेरा सवाल ये है कि जैसे बोलते हैं ना, कर्म का हर कर्म का फल होता है, अच्छे कर्म का अच्छा और बुरे कर्म का बुरा फल होता है। तो ये तो पुण्य पाप में आ गया। तो जो बच्चे होते हैं ना, छोटे बच्चे होते हैं, उनको तो कुछ पता ही नहीं होता है, मतलब सही क्या है, गलत क्या है, अच्छा क्या है, कर्म का फल, ये सब तो उनको कर्म फल ये सब कुछ पता ही नहीं होता है। तो उनसे जो पाप मतलब अनजाने में जो गलती हो जाती है, पाप कुछ हो जाता है, तो क्या उनको भी वही कर्म का फल भुगतना पड़ता है क्या? जैसे गांधारी माता को वो इतने जन्म के बाद वो मिला, वो तो लीला है कृष्ण की, मतलब वो पता है, लेकिन फिर भी एक एग्जाम्पल है ना, सब लोग इस चीज को माइंड में रखते हैं। हाँ, उनको मिला था बचपन में, अज्ञान के अवस्था में उन्होंने वो अंडा फोड़ दिया था अनजाने में, तो उनको उसका फल के स्वरूप उनका 100 पुत्र को उनको हराना पड़ा। तो क्या ये बात सच है प्रभु जी की मतलब बच्चों को भी वही कर्म का फल मिलता है उनकी गलतियों?
बहुत छोटे बच्चे हैं तो शायद नहीं मिलता होगा, थोड़ा तो मिलता होगा, पर कितना हद तक मिलता है मुझे पता नहीं। पर एटलीस्ट शास्त्र वर्णन करते हैं जब थोड़ा बहुत ज्ञान आता है तब से पालन करना चाहिए कर्म के सिद्धांत को। तो मैंने अब तक ऐसा क्लियरली पढ़ा नहीं कि कौन से उम्र से कर्म लगता है, 1 साल के बच्चे को लगता है क्या कर्म करने का। आई एम नॉट वेरी श्योर अबाउट इट, पर इतना बोल सकते हैं कि भगवान वैसे कृपालु है। अगर कुछ भी ज्ञान नहीं है, कोई बहुत अज्ञानी है, छोटा बच्चा है, शायद भगवान भले थोड़े चीज का माफ करेंगे। वो ये कहानी आती है भागवतम में, जब विदुर सॉरी एक ऋषि थे, मांडुक ऋषि, मांडुक मुनि। तो मांडुक मुनि एक बार वो किसी व्यक्ति, कोई व्यक्ति भाग रहा है, राजा का जो सेना है उनको पकड़ने का प्रयास कर रहा है, पर ये जो चोर हैं मांडुक मुनि के आश्रम में छुप जाते हैं। और सेना के जो लोग हैं, जो सोल्जर्स हैं, ये मांडुक ऋषि को पकड़ के लेके जाते हैं राजा के पास और बोलते हैं कि ये चोरों की रक्षा कर रहा है। बट एक्चुअली मांडुक मुनि को पता ही नहीं था चोर उनके आश्रम में रुके थे। तो राजा इनको बोलता है इनका आंख निकाल दो, गरम लोहा इनके आंख में डाल के आंख निकाल दो। तो ये करने ही वाले थे। तो उस समय कैसे तो राजा को पता चल जाता है अरे ये तो साधु संत है, इनके प्रति अपराध नहीं करना चाहिए, उनको छोड़ देते हैं। तो मांडुक मुनि यमराज के पास जाते हैं और बोलते हैं अरे मैंने तो ये चोर की रक्षा नहीं की, फिर भी इतना बड़ा सजा, मेरा आंख निकलने ही वाला था, ऐसा क्यों? तो यमराज उनका रिकॉर्ड चेक करके बोलते हैं आप जब छोटे बच्चे थे ना, आपने एक चींटी के आंख में एक स्ट्रॉ डाला था, उसको अंधा किया था, प्रयास किया था, इसलिए आपको यह सजा मिल रहा है। तो मांडुक मुनि उस समय यमराज को श्राप देते हैं, तुम कैसे यमराज हो, मैं तो छोटा बच्चा था उस समय में मुझे कर्म का सिद्धांत पता ही नहीं था, फिर भी तुम वो छोटे बचपन में जो किया उसके लिए ये सजा, इसलिए वो श्राप देते हैं यमराज को कि आप शूद्र बन जाओ। तो वही यमराज विदुर के रूप में आते हैं। तो शायद हो सकता है कि छोटे बच्चों का जो करते हैं उनका माफी मिलता होगा, पर ये भी इम्पोर्टेंट है कि माता पिता का कर्तव्य है बच्चों को ये पाठ पढ़ाना, ये कर्म के सिद्धांत को, ये जो रूल्स हैं बच्चों को सिखाना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। इट इज ऑल्सो द ड्यूटी ऑफ पेरेंट्स। और बच्चा जब धीरे धीरे बड़ा होता है निश्चित रूप से उसको ये नियम समझना पड़ेगा। श्रील प्रभुपाद ये भी उदाहरण देते थे कि आग है, प्रभुपाद वुड ऑल्सो गिव दिस एग्जाम्पल, जैसे फायर है, आग है, छोटा बच्चा आग में हाथ डालेगा, आग उसको जलाएगा कि माफ करेगा? क्या लगता है आपको?
जलाएगा ऑब्वियसली।
हाँ, तो आग ये नहीं सोचेगा अरे छोटा बच्चा है, अज्ञानी है, उसको पता नहीं है, माफ कर देता हूँ। आग नहीं करेगा, वो तो जलाएगा। तो वैसे ही ये दुनिया में आए हैं छोटे बड़े जो भी, तो हमको यहाँ के नियम पता होना चाहिए। आग जलाएगा पता होना चाहिए बच्चे को। अगर बच्चे को पता नहीं है तो माता पिता को बच्चे को बोलना चाहिए सावधानी से रहो, दूर रहो। So it's like that also. In that sense also karma applies to everyone. Right. Okay. So I gave you both angles. You can balance it out.
Yes, Prabhuji, wonderfully explained. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Alpana Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Actually, I have just ventured into Bhakti Yoga. So, a lot of confusion between demigods and